Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Divine Essence. For those tuning into the podcast, welcome back, whether you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And a big hello to those who are tuning in on YouTube to the first video cast for Divine Essence. So a little bit of housekeeping before I get into the episode. I've been wanting to do a little bit more video or introduce video more into Divine Essence. So I think video casts are a good way to transition into that. And I just feel like making video casts would kind of make this more of like an intimate, personal thing, like connecting more with those who are listening and, tuning in to like what's going on with Divine Essence in general. So that's kind of it for the housekeeping things. I have my phone here with some notes so for the episode, but that's kind of all I have for the housekeeping. Let's just go ahead and get into this episode. And so yeah, as you see from the title, it's trusting the process, and kind of want to talk about a little bit of what's going on with me the past couple weeks, and hopefully we can segue kind of smoothly into what this podcast has in store. Yeah, trusting the process. For me, I've had a lot of inspiration kind of come and go. And obviously, like when you're hit with inspiration, it doesn't really entail that act immediately on everything. The inspiration might come and give you an idea for something that might take place in the future, and you might have more perspective of what that is specifically for you. I know for me, sometimes I get inspired about things that may sound good a year or 3 years from now. But more so what happens most of the time, like I get inspiration for things that I can do right now that are, that could lead me more in a direction of what I'm trying to get to, more immediately. And when that happens, like one of two things happens. It's either like I act on it, and we kind of go further along on this journey of figuring out what the end goal is, or the other part would be like I don't act on it, and I'm still like stuck in a sense. I'm like I either lose that inspiration, or nothing really takes place, and that inspiration just ends right there. And so I want to talk a little bit about like what trusting the process is, and kind of how that correlates with inspiration. And I don't think, well, one, inspiration, I don't think that it solely comes on you waiting. I think inspiration comes as well with just doing. And for me personally, as much as I've been inspired from different things, whether it's a movie, a song, just walking outside, whatever it may be, I think there's more inspiration that comes as well that I miss out on from not deciding to react on some inspiration when it takes place. And I think doing and reacting when that happens, it leads you to more and more things. You get inspired even more because you see things taking form, taking shape, and you have more of an idea of like how you can move forward and how you can tweak things. I think I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but as far as what trusting the process may look like, that's kind of where I want to start off with. And you know me with my definitions, and I got one for you for the process. And the process is a non-linear path to reaching an end objective. Let me say that again. Process is a non-linear path to reaching an end objective. And so I think for me, for anybody who is wanting to reach a goal, who has something in mind, I think what we have to realize is like this path is not straight. It's a little bit of everything. It's going up, it's going down, it's going backwards, it's going in circles. But at the end of the day, you're gonna reach this spot. And I think there has to be some form of contentment with that. That it's not going to be one specific way, or it may not be fully what we anticipated it to be. And for me, it's sometimes if it's not being what I anticipated it to be, I'm more hesitant to even do things. And so instead of moving forward, instead of going up, down, backwards in circles, I'm not moving at all. I'm just kind of halted. And that at that point, I'm, just more confused. But where I want to get to with trusting the process and realizing like what it can look like, of it not being linear, it's more of like a series of things that take place, series of different things or a series of the same thing being tweaked. Is that this process is not really trial and error, but it's more of trial and correction. And I feel like I'm a broken record, but like I said, Divine Essence is a place where I want to show and showcase my journey as far as reaching what my vision is in God. And I think one thing that I need to understand is like in whatever I do and whatever I try, right? It's not, and however it comes out to be, I'm more so encouraging myself and not to look at it as a failure. Um, because with anything, like with whatever my posture is with God and like any concerns or desires I have with Him, that I'm trying to seek wisdom and counsel in, there is some times where I might fall short, but with God's grace, He is a God to discipline and correct. And at the time, I may not want to really have it or receive it because of some condemnation I'm feeling, or just the fact that I'm not really in a place to, yeah, just to receive it at all. Like I'm more stuck in myself of what happened, what could have, should have, instead of feeling that grace and understanding that what I did may not have been the right thing, but it could be corrected. And so, in terms of like the process with you and what you're doing, whether you're an artist trying to make a painting, and you did the stroke this way, and maybe your professor came, maybe somebody else came and critiqued you about that stroke and said, "Oh, what if you did it like this?" Doesn't really mean that your stroke that you did with the paint or the pencil or the charcoal was wrong. There just was a better way of it being executed. And the same thing um, is how we can see it with God. I mean, especially for me, that's the perspective I want to talk about, and in terms of what my vision is, and as far as like where I go to get counsel about it's personally with God and through other people that I trust as well. But in that same sense, if I do something and in prayer, and if I seek counsel or favor, and as far as getting to this point, getting to the next point actually in vision, God may affirm what happened, what I did, but also provide more wisdom and insight. And with wisdom and insight, with anything, you have a better understanding of how you can improve something or how you can do something better. And that is what this waiting process is. It's doing. It's repeatedly doing and trying new things with a good posture, a good posture in God, a good attitude, all those kind of things. Um, that's what it is. And I think the last episode of the podcast, I talked about speaking it into existence and focusing more on what that is in prayer and acknowledging like what we have inside of us first as we go to God to seek counsel with it. In the same way, that's what the waiting process is, or what the process is essentially, is trying things. It's like having the faith that whatever little step that you're doing, whatever little step that I'm doing, in this moment in time, is leading me to another place, even though it can be corrected or it can be improved over time. And so that is like the main thing that has that's hit me so far this week, is when like a little bit of inspiration came about me and I acted on it. In hindsight, like after it was done, like I felt good in my soul. I felt good that I did this thing. And even now with the this video cast, it's also a product of some inspiration. And I'm hoping, as well as this being the first one, like things can probably improve like later on down the line. And this is just me talking about like talking about this episode in a visual way, like with reality and what's going on right now. Like maybe something can go better with the video, the audio, whatever the case may be. But the fact that I acted on that form of inspiration has led me here to another episode, to another time just to speak, and to just carry on. And so, yeah, in a sense of like what's been going on this week, I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful to be here yet again, and back on schedule with Divine Essence. So, as far as looking at the highs of things, I'm gonna take that. But yeah, there's a portion of scripture that I want to read that has been speaking to me in terms of what the process is, in this episode, and it comes from Hebrews chapter 12 verse 1, and it says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God." And so that was Hebrews 12, Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 to 2. And I just want to kind of go back to verse 1. Therefore, since we are surrounded so great by a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight. And for me, there's a lot of things, whether it's doubt in terms of like what I'm doing is not being executed in what I imagined it to be, and therefore I'm just going to stay stagnant in terms of what the end goal could be. There's doubt forming in my mind, or that's being placed on me, and that's self-inflicted, right? And it's something that I'm working. I'm wanting to work more as far as actively dropping it and bringing it to God, whether it's speaking it into existence, and trusting the process. You know what I mean? And yeah, I think it's very important for us to just shake off this this weight. That's not helpful. That's not beneficial to us at all. And it's we're the ones who have it. I'm the one who just has it in my hand. That's kind of hindering me from doing something or going forward. And yeah, I'm gonna keep reading as well and kind of add some more dialogue from this verse. And so after, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. So with anybody, everybody has a purpose, like being here on earth, and I think it's whether or not you are looking at that perspective in God or not. There's some kind of purpose you're providing for people, whether it's your family, whether it's the community that you're around. There is some purpose that you're giving, and with whatever it is, whatever vision that you have, it's set. I've recognized that there's a conviction in me to find this vision, but to carry it out to the fullest in God. And I see that it is set before me, um, and it's long. In this verse it says, "Let us run with endurance." Like, it's going to be something that we're going to have to that could tire us out, but it's something that we can endure. And I think with trusting the process, it's in the trial, not the trial and error, but the trial and correction. There's so many things that can go on. There's so many things that could pass, that could get us tired. Like, the process itself could make us tired, but at the end of the day, it's building us up to keep on going, right? To keep on pursuing your dream, to keep on pursuing your vision. um, and for me, that's just something I have to keep in mind, as far as doing the simple things, like prayer, speaking like what I'm feeling, acknowledging all those things. And when the inspiration comes, when I receive the things that I'm praying about, it's being reactive to those, and acting on it swiftly. Um, so yeah. Next, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. And I think I'm just gonna rap a little bit about Jesus, because he's a dog. Jesus Christ was the perfect example for us, as far as somebody who knew what his vision was, what his purpose was, and doing it to perfection. And along the way, like literally along the way to his crucifixion, he was receiving the uttermost despise and shame from a lot of people. But the joy that he had, as far as what he was doing, what he was enduring, was for the purpose of his end goal. And even at the end of that verse, it's saying that he was seated at the right hand of God, that he received his prize. He received the fullness of what his vision and purpose was. Is an encouragement to all of us, should be, that whatever part of your journey that you're on, whatever you're going through, or whatever you're experiencing, and the things that you may be more hesitant to do out of fear, you should feel the liberty to do it. And regardless if it might bring shame on you from other people who may not understand, or if it's simply a lack of understanding that other people might have with what you're doing, continue to carry on, because there's a joy that you know and that you have, that you're doing what you believe you should be doing. And the grace in it is that you're being corrected along the way. You're being showed a better way every single time you decide to show up and do what you feel like you should be doing, or what you feel inspired to do. So yeah, that's Hebrews 12. That's what has been speaking to me a lot this past week, as far as inspiration goes. And another portion of scripture I want to go to is James chapter 1, and it's going to be verses 22 to 25. This is speaking more towards like doing the work, rather than hearing it, like rather than going to whatever what's the word, whatever form of inspiration you go to, whatever medium you go to, whether it's video, whether it's books, or whether it's a person, whether it's whatever. Instead of just consuming it, there has to be a point where you take the responsibility to do. And I think that's what James really talks about, and what has also been a form of encouragement to me. And so I'm going to start in verse 22. It says, "But be doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man observing his natural face in a mirror, For he observes himself, goes away, and immediately forgets what kind of man he was. But he who looks into the perfect law of liberty and continues in it, and is not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this one will be blessed in what he does. Um, and I just like the metaphor in here of like, to the one who's a hearer of the word and not a doer. He's like somebody who goes into the mirror and forgets who they are, you know. To somebody who just hears all the inspiration, who hears all the information and all the knowledge from all these places, but doesn't do it. It's like somebody who tries to go back to see what their vision was. They can't. At least that's how I'm looking at it in terms of the content of this episode. Um, but verse 25, but he who looks into the perfect law of liberty and continues in it, to the one who like endures, to the one who persists, who keeps on going, enduring, striving in God and his law and his truth, and and walking that out to the point of like it's providing more insight, you know, to the of situations that happened in the past, to situations that are going on currently, and things that you're anticipating in the future. Continuously looking at that law and the liberty in it, and not forgetting to do what it's telling you to do. Like, this is an assurance that we'll be blessed. Another portion of scripture is like, we don't serve a God who lies. You know, God swore on himself. There's nobody that he saw greater than him, that created the heavens and the earth, the universe, the world, that the promise of salvation is based on a promise that he swore by himself. And so in a sense, God is the one saying, try me, you know, like, this is what you want to do. This is the vision that I'm giving you insight and wisdom on. Now just try me, trust me. And it's like he has the hand that can't be beat. But I think it's just up to us to continue to persist and to pursue in our calling, in our journey, and just witness, you know, just witness what happens every step of the way. That is the process. You know, it's something that's very abstract, something that we're all learning, or at least me, I'm, you know, still trying to learn day by day. But I think realizing that the process is a time that's not just trial and error, but trial and correction, has given me more more of a liberty to continue to try and just to do new things, and learn along the way, and be inspired to carry on and to just do, while as well as not forgetting to hear how my soul is, my spirit is, and to also hear the word and what that truth is speaking to me in this season, as far as how to move and discern. Because at the end of the day, I can do so many things, I can do all these things, but if it's not within the direction or will of God, I feel like there's always going to be tension of it's not right, or it's not good for me. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of where I want to end with this podcast. It might be a little bit shorter compared to the recent ones, but I think that's it content wise. But yeah, that's it for this podcast. That's it for the first video cast as well. Thank you for tuning in. This video cast will be on YouTube on my personal page. And so if that information is not here within the podcast, go ahead and check it out on my Instagram at _Colindizia_, or you can check it out at It's Divine Essence on Instagram as well for all the information of where the content is. Yeah, thank you all for tuning in, whether it's through Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or whether through YouTube with the video cast. Yeah, thank you for stopping by. Appreciative as always, and look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you. Nos vemos, and ciao.